So we were talking about GUI design and coding, and in this we have talked about this code inspection and code walkthroughs. So once we have actually coded the modules, coded means we have actually implemented it in certain programming language. Then we start code commence or code walkthrough. So code inspection and code walkthrough, these are two important aspects which are done after the module has been coded. And this ensures that we have followed certain coding standards, and coding standards we have already discussed, which helps us to detect various errors. So before actually going to the testing, we follow this inspection and walkthrough just to detect as many errors as possible. And when we detect as many as errors as possible while doing code inspection and walkthrough, so in this inspection and walkthrough, we are not performing actual testing. We are just inspecting the code, and just the way we walk through or read certain chapters, we read the code. And these aspects or these ways, when they apply, the detected error while inspection and walkthrough, they require less effort for correction. And if if these errors or if errors were to be detected during integration and system testing, you will need much more higher effort. So it's always better to perform inspection and walkthrough before going to actual integration or system testing. Then coding standards and guidelines. What we have talked about is good organization. They always follow certain coding standards, or because the coding standards which we have, like MISRA, JSF, etc., they are quite stringent, and they force to comply with various you know programming level concepts which are difficult to actually realize sometimes. So good organization, they develop their own coding standards and guidelines, and this is actually different for different organization, which best suits your organization. And we are going to discuss this some representation or representative coding standards and guidelines. So what are these representative coding standards? These are the rules for limiting the use of globals. Just for instance, we are just discussing some of them. That the global use or a variable or anything which is globally defined, this rule says that limit the use of globals. So what types of data can be declared global and what cannot? These comes under this ruling. Then there are various naming conventions for global variables, local variables, and constant identifiers. Then contents of headers for different modules. Headers means which stands on the top of your program, and the headers for different modules should be standard for an organization. Means the exact format for header information which needs to be placed up front is usually specified, and the implementers, they follow this, or they put this header information on the top. What can be the header data? You can have name of the module, date on which the module was created, who has created, the modification history, the synopsis of the module, and different functions supported along with their input and output parameters, and global variables which are accessed or modified by the module. All these data can be placed, and it is always a good idea to place all this in your header. What will be the conventions for error if they are returned? And exceptional handling. So error and exceptional or exception handling, there are rules for this also, the way the error and exception handles, exception conditions are being handled by a certain organization. For instance, when different functions encounter error condition, should it return a 0 or a 1, it should be quite consistent with all the functions. Then we have, do not use too clever and difficult to understand coding style. If you're a good programmer, that is very good, but code should be easy throughout, so that people can understand. And what inexperienced engineers sometimes do, they write cryptic and incomprehensible code, and this will lead to this is the point where the errors they start generating. Clever coding, which I just told you, the complexity, if you increase, then it will surely be hampering the understanding aspect. And once you are not able to understand the maintenance part, which is might be taking around 60% of the effort, will be quite difficult to manage. So it avoids obscure side effects. But the side effects of function call, what it may include, function call means when you are calling certain function, so there may be some side effects. First of all, modification of parameters passed by reference. modification of global values, and the input output operation. Those who are well versed with programming, they might be understanding what I'm trying to assert here. And what is obscure side effect? One that is not obvious from casual examination of the code. So if you're examining, you'll not be able to find that side effect or that bug actually. These obscure side effects will make you, it will make the things quite difficult to understand. Even a small piece of code would be, very difficult to comprehend. Just for the sake of, instance of example, if a global variable is changed obscurely in a call module, how you are going to manage it? So it will become very difficult for anybody which is trying to understand the code if this kind of programming has been implemented. Do not use any identifier, that is a variable name, for multiple purposes. You are familiar with a name, character name or int x. So these are some identifier which we generally learn while learning programming language. But what we suggest is programmers, they often use same identifier for multiple purposes, and this should not be the case. Some programmers use temporary loop variable, and they also use it for storing the final result, and this will lead to catastrophe in some cases. What may be the example use of variable for multiple purposes? This is an example that you are using I and you are doing some stuff, and then again you are using this I is equal to 2 into p into q, some results you are storing, and you are returning I also. So this should be really discouraged, this kind of use. And what about use of variable for multiple purposes? They are going to affect. So the rationale which given by the programmers, that okay, why I'm using it, they are saying that it is for memory efficiency. Why to use various variable to do same task or multiple tasks? Three variable use three memory location. So whereas the same variable will use only one memory location. This is the argument which is sometimes given. But there are things which are wrong with this approach and should be discouraged, avoided. Each variable should be given a name indicating its purpose. It is very important. This is not possible if an identifier is used for multiple purposes. And the most important side effect is confusion and annoyance. If you are trying to understand the code, you'll see I, you will realize, okay, I we have used. Now I is doing many tasks, or it is used for many purposes. So the maintenance part will be quite difficult. And code should be well documented. You should use those comments everywhere, wherever it is possible. So the rule of thumb is there should be at least one commit line for every three source line. And the function which you are using or writing should not exceed 10 source lines. It will make the code clean, understandable, and worthwhile. And if you have lengthy functions, if someone is really interested in making large functions, you will not be able to understand it, and it may do various things at a single point of time, which we don't want. We want the cohesion to be highest as possible. The most important aspect of every programming standard is not to use go-to statements. You might be, if you are doing engineering or MCA, BC, or any other computer science course, the first line which a teacher who is teaching you programming, he will specify or utter is that don't use go-to statements. If you use go-to statement, this is surely be going to make your program unstructured and very difficult to understand. Then code walkthrough we have talked about. So this is an informal code analysis technique, and this is taken up after the coding of module is complete. Once the coding is complete, then you can start with this informal code analysis, which is called as code walkthrough. But few members of the development team, they select some test cases and they simulate execution of the code by hand using these test cases. They simulate not by any computer tool or case tool or testing tool. They apply it on just a casual basis. But this code through, I'm specifying it to be an informal technique, but there are several guidelines which have evolved over the years of rigorous experience and making this informal technique effective, very effective. And these guidelines, which are based on your experiences, common sense, and various subjective factors. These guidelines, they must be considered just an example. Just don't accept as rules to be applied dogmatically. the team which is actually performing this actual code walkthrough should not be either too big or too small. And ideally, if you know that magic number 7, so the numbers of people who are performing this should be between 3 to 7 members. And this discussion on walkthrough should focus on discovery of errors. You will not be, continuing with the task of fixing the discovered errors. The focus is on discovery of errors. And just to make this cooperation a faster cooperation, you know, to the way we want, we avoid the feeling among engineers or the people who are doing it that they are being evaluated in the code walkthrough meeting. And they should not attend the walkthrough meetings at all. Then we come to code inspection. What is code inspection? It is something different to code walkthrough. The code inspection, it aims mainly at for discovering the commonly made errors. You know what is if you are experienced, you know what errors might be. You have used a while loop which is not ending. This kind of errors is taken up by code inspection. So while you are performing code inspection, the code is again examined for the presence of certain kinds of error. And in contrast to the hand simulation which we were doing in our code walkthroughs, the code execution is actually done. Code execution is done in code inspection. Just for example, classical error of writing a procedure that modifies a formal parameter. While the calling rule routine, they calls the procedure with a constant actual parameter. So this can be seen and detected in code inspection. So in these cases, it is highly likely that this errors or such kind of errors will be discovered by looking at the mistakes in the code, rather than just by simulating execution by hand of the procedure. So for that, you would need code inspection. Various companies which are considered good, they collect the statistics of error which are committed by various engineers and the types of errors that frequently are committed. So getting an idea of which errors are highly likely and which are highly unlikely, then what we can list common errors, and this can be used during your code inspection to look for the possible errors, because you are aware that okay, this kind of error may occur or may be there. What common error, or the engineers who tend to make mistakes, every software people, a person would make these mistakes. These are, they may use uninitialized variables, they may have loops which are non-terminating, like the while I said. The array index are out of bounds, assignments are incompatible. You're assigning an integer to a double, that will be a warning, or you're assigning a character or string to an integer. If you are allocating, you are not deallocating, and vice versa. These are improper storage allocation and deallocation. And actual and formal parameter in the function calls or procedure calls, they are mismatching. And while you are using jumps into loops, then the jumps are not proper. So in code inspection, we use of incorrect logic operators can be there. You know how this precedence of operators is defined in a programming language. So if you incorrectly use the operators, they may lead to error. Loop variables, if you don't, there are loop variables inside loop, you define variables, and if you modify them improperly, that will be a problem. Also, comparison of equality of floating point values, that may be a problem because there will be a loss of precision, etc. And during code inspection, adherence to coding standard is also verified. Yeah, this is very important. Code inspection actually checks that how much you have followed the coding standards that you are supposed to follow. Then comes the software documentation part. So when you're developing a software product, you are supposed to write certain documents. In addition to executable files and source code, you have user manuals, SRS, design documents, test document, and then installation manual. If this installation is requiring some configuration or some registry or environment variable changes, then you have to write this installation manual also. And these documents, they are pivotal, means they play a vital and important part of good software development practice. If you are considering a good document, then a good document and understandability and maintainability are enhanced for the user of a particular software product. And these software documents, they can be categorized into two categories. One is your internal documentation, the others are external documentation, or we call them as supporting documents. What are internal documents? These are documentation provided in the source code itself. like in the way of comments or headers. Why this external documentation? These documentation are those which are not present in the source code. Internal documentation, how they are provided, use of meaningful variable name, code indentation, structuring, code good structuring, use of enumerator types and constant identifiers, use of user defined data types, and then module headers and comments. These are all part of internal documentation. If you have good software company, then you must ensure good internal code documentation, and you also have coding standards and coding guidelines. Just follow this. For example of unhelpful documentation is like this: a is equal to 10, a made of 10. What does this comment mean? This means nothing. Means this will not be understandable or helpful in any way. So you have to really be very careful, and if you experiment it very carefully, then meaningful variable name is the most useful internal documentation. If you have meaningful name, like if you want to add two values, so add two values, you can use it like this. If you want factorial, you don't use fact or something, use proper factorial name. Now coming to external documentation, we have user manuals, software requirement specification document, design document, test documents, installation instructions. So systematic software development, it is there to ensure that all external documents, they are written, they are made, they are produced in a well organized manner. The important feature of good documentation is its consistency. So you need to be a very good content writer with respect to your software, so that you can make the documentation consistent. If they are not, then there will be confusion. A lot of confusion is created for somebody who is really trying to understand the product, because if someone has made, someone has written, he leave the organization, the others have to maintain. This all the documents which you are preparing for a product should be up to date. Means even a few out of date documents can create severe confusion. So they need to be updated every now and then. Then we have textual documents. What are these textual documents? Readability. Readability is one of the most important aspect of textual document. Means we cannot have a document with font size of 8, or font which are not very much used. This readability means understandability. So again, readability gives rise to a good understandability, and good understandability means good maintainability. You can maintain it. If you can understand, you can maintain it. A well-known readability measure of text document is your Gunnings-Fox index. Gunnings-Fox index. You must really remember this. What is Gunnings-Fox index? This is equal to 0.4 into number of words by number of sentences plus percentage of words of 3 or more syllables. So this F corresponds to the number of years of schooling to easily understand the document, right? And that too, schooling in a very good English language. The document is quite easy to understand if all sentences you have kept in or written, they are small, and you use only 4 to 5 words each, and you use number of characters which are small per word, not exceeding 5 to 6 characters. So let us summarize what we have gone through in this session. We have seen widgets. They are basic building block of your GUI or user interface design, and to develop a modern graphical user interface, we put together widgets that you may require. You stitch them together, and then you make user interface development quite easy. And we also discussed standard widgets like pull down menu, pop-up menus, label, dialog boxes, radio buttons, push buttons, containers. There are various widgets. We have just discussed few of them. And then what we have seen is coding standards. Means we are trying to enforce good coding practice. And what about coding guidelines? These are the suggestions to the programmer just to implement, which is implementation you can give to the programmers, but they should do it in the constraints of coding guidelines. Then we have talked about the documentation part. If a good document is there, it helps in understanding the product, and then consequently the good maintenance. Documentation can be internal and external. And internal documentation, it is provided in the source code itself, while the comprehensibility of text document, you can measure it using your Gunnings-Fox index. So thank you so much. This was all about your GUI design, coding, etc. Take care.